Good evening. Good evening, all.
Good evening to Doctor.
Mkule, good evening. Sibongile. Musa, Masi, are you there?
Good evening, Doctor.
Hope you are fine today.
We're fine, Doctor. Just that you people from this side, South Africa, load
Pardon?
shedding. I sent you a message on WhatsApp notifying you that we might have load shedding
From what
now.
time?
Starting now at 4, but it still hasn't hit. So if we all cut off, it means load
Are you
shedding.
on campus?
No, I'm not. I'm a bit far from campus. A bit far.
Okay, so it means if it goes, you also, but you guys, you normally don't have, you don't prepare in advance, eh? Like you charge your phones or your laptops.
That's not a problem. The problem
Some
is the
bundles, eh?
internet connection. The problem is the internet connection.
Bundles.
I'm not sure everyone can afford to buy bundles, but we can communicate.
Because you know it is a sacrifice. Eh? Once you understand the challenges, then you need to
Yeah.
devise ways of managing the situation just in case. Eh?
No, 100%.
Because it doesn't mean that if load shedding, even as we do experience, the power blackouts. Eh?
Yes.
So when it does happen, of course, now you switch to either bundles. You buy some bundles. Eh?
Yes, Doctor.
Yes, and then you connect, and you also need to, of course, charge your machines early enough. Eh?
Yes, yes. Not a problem. Yes, I understand.
Yeah. So I think in future you just need to think about it. Eh?
Yes. Thank you.
What about the rest? Eh?
I'm sure they're still going to join.
Okay. The Ugandans, are you there, or you are also facing internet challenges?
Prof, we are around.
Okay. So inform your counterparts to join. Eh?
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. No, it appears like we'll take again some time, eh? What's happening with the others, eh? We agree that we should try and at least keep time. So I think 15 past, we will have to proceed, even if we are few, because again, we cannot afford to postpone the class. Eh? It is not easy to find time for the makeups. Eh? So have you tried to reach out to your friends?
Yes, doctor, but there's no response.
Because others are joining, others are chickening out. So I think in the interest of time, we can just begin the class. If the rest join us, well and good. If they don't join, they will create time to learn what we've gone through today. So good evening once again.
Good evening, Doctor.
Yes, so I believe that you are fine till this moment, and you are, of course, moving along with your studies. So yesterday we were not able to proceed with our class because of the low quorum. So we agreed that you do the reading. Some of the articles that I have posted on ClickUp, I also shared them, posted them on the ARC platform. So I believe right now you do not have an excuse for not, reading the articles. And besides that, there is an assignment which you are to complete. And I gave out another assignment, group assignment. So there are a number of things that you guys should be touching base with it. So now, today, before we proceed to the next lesson, I want those who did not, of course, only one person presented last time, the individual assignment. So I can see, is Nkosi around? No, Nkosi, not there. Sam? Sam has left. There are few people who forwarded the assignment. So who is ready to share with us what he or she did? Because I have the presentation for Sam and Nkosi. I thought they were around just to share with the other members. So remember Njoki shared last time. Nancy, you did share your assignment with us?
Yeah.
In the last class, yes. So Sibongile,
Yes, Doctor.
did you share with us your work?
No, I didn't. I wasn't in class.
You weren't in class, eh?
Yes.
But you later on read more on the assignment, eh?
I did start, but I am not finished with it because I just saw in the group that we had the individual. I thought it was group assignment, but they clarified that it's individual. But I
Okay.
do have something prepared, but it's not enough.
Bright? Bright, what did you do? Bright? Sam, I can see you are back. Sam, how are you?
I'm okay, Doctor.
Yes, I did receive your assignments. Could you just walk us through your work?
Which assignment exactly are you?
The individual one, eh?
Because we gave two individual assignments. There's one concerning global value chain, and then there's one concerning supply chain management.
Mm-hmm. So which one did you do?
I think I did both of
There is
them.
one on the modern and versus the traditional, eh?
Yes, supply chains, and then yes, I did that.
Yes, so would you mind sharing with us your findings, eh?
I can do that, Doctor. Just a moment.
Okay. Okay. Thembi, did you work on the assignments? Malo?
Good afternoon, Doctor. Yes, I did some readings and I looked into the differences between the two supply chain management.
So you will share with us after some, eh?
Okay, Doctor.
Okay.
I hope you can all see the screen.
Yes. Yes, we can see it.
So it's basically, the work was about differentiating between traditional supply chain management and the modern chain management at both local and the global level perspective. So just before we dig into the differences, I think there are some key areas we need to briefly talk about. That's the supply chain, because whatever happens in a supply chain is what we have to manage. The practices that happen along the supply chain are the ones that give us the management basis. So briefly, supply chain refers to the complex logistics system that consists of complex logistics system that consists of facilities that convert raw materials into finished products and distribute them to the end consumer. So the key elements of the supply chain management include developing strategy. Here we look at the planning process, whereby after receiving what a consumer needs, so strictly supply chain looks at what a consumer wants. Consumer starts with the consumer needs. How do you address them? So you go to the second process of sourcing raw materials that you use, and then the production process that involves manufacturing or converting the idea into a finished product. And then we distribute it until it reaches the consumer. Distribution involves delivery channels, and delivery systems and means of how you deliver them. Then the returns, we are going to look at returns in form of consumer information or consumer feedback about a product. So it's more of a vicious cycle. So when you get the feedback that maybe this was good, this was wrong about a product, then you go back and develop it again. So that suits the consumer needs or what the consumer desires exactly. So supply chain management refers to the management of the flow of goods and services from the point of origin to the point of consumption. Why is it essential? Why do we have to mind about the management of the supply chain? When the supply chain is well managed, you'll see that consumer satisfaction is met, and we minimize costs along the whole chain, system, and ensures timely delivery of goods. So here we are going to focus on the distinguishing features between the traditional and the modern supply chain, but strictly at a global level. So we looked at the primary focus at the global traditional supply chain management. Here we are going to look at optimizing supply chain. What do you mean by optimizing? Here we talk about efficiency, mainly, that when you're managing a traditional supply chain management, we should really look at how best are you going to maneuver the issue of costs, like producing what is required at a minimum cost. And then when you look at the modern supply chain, it is based on the circular model involving multiple stakeholders. Here we are going to look at other stakeholders that help you to deliver this product, to come up with the right product that suits the consumer. Basically, what is behind your mind is the consumer need. It's what comes first in your mind. So the different stakeholders you're going to deal with, they have to gear this product towards meeting what your consumer wants. And the decision-making process as usual is centralized under the traditional global supply chain management. Whereas when you look at the global, they're usually decentralized, meaning operations are spread out over a series of nodes in the network. Look at collaboration, where here it's in a linear model. More of a supplier is going to emphasize control and coordination. The linear model usually emphasizes the stages involved, like production. From production, I'm going to supply, I'm going to distribute, and then later on, it reaches the end consumer. Whereas the circular model emphasizes constant communication and collaboration among the players within the supply chain. And the issue of technology, you're going to look at the traditional is more of, it's lean on the product, uses the lean production techniques and just-in-time inventory management. While the modern one emphasizes digital technologies and data analytic modern supply chain. When you go to flexibility, tradition is less flexible compared to the modern one, whereby it is more responsive to the changes in the market, the modern one, due to the quick communication and the various means of communication that are available these days. Whereas tradition doesn't have that quick response. And the swiftness in delivery, you will look at traditional is less compared to the modern one. So the overall opinion is, more overall findings are, in my opinion, are both the traditional and the modern supply chain management approaches have their strength, but the modern one is more effective given the complex challenges in today's global supply chain. So the modern one is more responsive to the challenges that we have currently in the supply chain. So I also compared at the local level, given the Uganda basis, here the local level, given my country. I looked at the visibility management, the data flow, and what the primary focus area and the strategy management. I looked at focus. The traditional one here strictly focuses at bridging the gap between the supply and demand. Like how do the goods reach the final consumer? Whereas if you look at the modern one, you're going to look at, it focuses more on forecasting the consumer's demands. Let's say we put into position, what do consumers want? So that you aim at widening your market share and increasing your sales. The data flow, there's lack of real-time data. Whereas this one is more efficient in the flow of information. Like it's more up to date compared to the traditional one. You look at the strategy, the management strategy, the traditional one aims at the long-term sustainability, while the current one looks at creation of value. Look at the distribution management. Back then, if you look at the traditional supply chain management, the distribution was more of how you used to manage distribution channels. It was more of direct. It involved direct control and involvement, whereby our traders could jump onto maybe trucks that are transporting matoke until they reaches the market point. Whereas the digital one, you can have more tracking systems currently that are used to track wherever goods are moving and heading to. Bookkeeping was mainly manual, whereby you write whatever sales you've made, the costs you've incurred. While today, in the modern supply chain management, systems are computerized, whereby reports are kept on our computers, and also accounting systems are recorded and kept in our different folders, and before the traditional supply chain management. So that's it, Doctor.
Thank you very much. Let's appreciate Sam for the presentation. I think this is well done, Sam.
Thank you, Doctor.
Or members, what do you think? Quite elaborate, eh? What is your take concerning the presentation? Hello? Hello? Guys, are you there?
Yes, Dr. We hear.
Now, can you just switch on your cameras, eh? For a moment, eh? Just switch on your cameras for a moment so that, yes, Hanko, how are you?
Hi, Doctor. I'm all right. Thanks, and yourself?
Fine, thank you. You've managed to join, eh?
Yes, the load shedding just kicked in, so the generators came on. I just quickly traveled to campus to be able to attend the class.
Okay. Thanks for the effort, eh?
No worries, Doctor.
Yeah, so I think Sam has done quite a good task, introducing us to the various concepts of supply chain management, the key elements of supply chain management, and then now the differences between the traditional and the modern supply chain management, both at the local level and the global level. So anything maybe for clarification regarding the presentation?
Nothing from my side, Doctor.
Any question, Thembi? Thembi? So Bright, you are to present next, eh? Or who? Thembi, yes, Thembi.
Okay, thank you very much, Doc. So I started defining a supply chain because it's like the top of everything, and it's a global network that ensures the delivery of products and services domestically and internationally. Traditional supply chain involves a process where product involves from procurement of raw materials to production and delivery to the end customer. While modern supply chain is a supply network designed to deliver instant choice and type of personalization across several fulfillment channels. So there are key elements that are in both traditional supply chain and modern. In the traditional supply chain, it's where we have we have to go and find raw materials and then take the raw materials to the manufacturing and then distribution, and then sell, and then the end product where it's consumption. Whereas with the modern supply chain, we have technology, logistics, management, partnerships, and like customer focus. So I tried looking for advantages in the traditional supply chain. I know they are there. I'm still to like look for them. In the modern supply chain, it's the delivery product, it's more quicker. You are able to actually trace the movement of, it's like real-time data of like the goods. And then there's high product safety, low and more customized inventory. So the focus is more on creating value for the customer than it is to just send the product or like get the product from one place to another. So like it is in the traditional supply chain. And then the disadvantages of the modern supply chain is the cyber attacks and data breaches. So now the problem with that is that if it happens, because there is partnership in them and then they are so well connected, if it hits one chain or supply chain, it can like one part of the chain, it can transmit or go to like the rest of the chain. And then the disadvantages of traditional is that it's limited visibility through the supply chain, so you can't know what's happening. And then there's lack of real-time data updates, more expected delays. So it's like traditionally, or it's like straightforward, it's bounded by rules. It is more reactive than it is proactive. So it answers to stimuli or answers to problems, but it does not create value. So the key differences between traditional and modern supply chain is that traditional supply focuses only on production and provision, whereas modern supply chain focuses on the needs of the customers. So they're creating value. Also aims to improve the value of the product delivered to the customer rather than just focusing on the aspects of distribution. So the modern, or like rather digital supply chain, allows any business organization to experience the value in creating a partnership, whereas with traditional supply chain allows listed companies to follow a single pathway. So it's traditional, it's everything. We used data that was used maybe last month to do the same thing the next month. There's no creativity in a kind of way. The organization operate under the modern supply chain, create value for the final customer's products. In contrast, the traditional supply chain has no such strategies to improve the finished product's value. So with the modern one, we have technologies and strategies that are incorporated in the to make it like much easier for trading, or like rather the supply chain. Whereas with the traditional supply chain, it follows the old method. And with the modern one, it's more faster than it is with the traditional one. So here it's in a way that with the old one, it does not focus more on the customer than the modern does focus on the customer and creating value for the customer. And that also, it's much quicker to use and it saves data to use the modern supply chain than it is with the traditional one. How do I stop sharing?
Are you done with the presentation?
Yes, doctor.
Okay. So a round of applause. Thembi, I think she has equally done a good job. So you can see the different, approaches when it comes to the presentations. And from each and every presentation, there's something new. There's a new element that has been brought on board for your knowledge or your attention. But ideally, if you look at all these presentations, you find a lot of similarities. You agree with me? Do you find that they are more or less similar? The issues being discussed are related? Talking about fast delivery, traceability, technology, and so on and so forth. The safety, you're able, to trace. For the modern one, you're able to trace, these food as they move along the supply chain. And even the issue, of quality and safety are of a great concern. So, and of course, I expect the others also to have worked on this so that as they do the presentations, you are also able to pick up a few things that you did not tackle or address, and can enrich your work as well. So I think, is there anybody with maybe one more person? And then we move to the next agenda of the day. So thank you very much Thembi, Nancy, and Sam.
Welcome, Doctor.
One more person.
Doctor,
The others, what did you do or what did you work on? Yes,
Doctor,
Uncle.
if you don't mind, I don't mind sharing what I did. I didn't go as intensely into, for example, touching on some of the concepts that Sam did and so on, because obviously I wasn't in class yesterday, which I apologize for. But I can present to you what I've done because I did the comparison between the traditional and the modern supply chains. Just quickly share my screen.
Okay, please go
If
ahead.
that's okay. If that's okay.
It's
Thank you very
perfect,
much.
It's perfect. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Dr. as Hanku shares, do you all have to present? Because I also have something ready, but I'm not sure if it's also in the caliber of how everyone's work looks.
Is it different or slightly different, something new or that we can also learn from?
No, I think it's more or less the same as everyone else's, but you can also check, I'll submit it to you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, hi everyone. So I just briefly compared the differences between the traditional and the modern supply chains from the literature that I had the time to review. So basically, majority of what is presented in front of you, Sam, and I'm pretty sure Nancy mentioned as well, because I remember from her table that she shared the last time, most of these concepts were also discussed. But when we look at the different types of communication used between the traditional and the modern, we can see that obviously due to the technological improvement, we improved communication drastically from where it usually used to be limited communication to more real-time. And it allows us a lot more adaptability and flexibility when we consider the supply chains and the systems that we run at the moment. When we look at concepts like technology and inventory management, we can see as a result of the increase or improvement in technology, we can reduce the amount of stock on hand drastically, keeping way less stock on hand, which obviously reduces our risk and exposure should something happen. For example, in South Africa, we had looting not too long ago when we had strikes and stuff going on, which to an extent, although it doesn't necessarily completely limit your loss, it does lessen it somewhat. When we look at the flexibility of traditional supply chains, we can see that there's very limited structure due to how defragmented it was, whereas these days it's very agile, it's very adaptable, and this is all due to the fact that we can use the internet to order stuff and we can outsource and so on. When we look at globalization many, many years ago wasn't necessarily a very big possibility for some of our markets due to obviously quality standards and so on. So we had very limited possibility of participation on global levels. However, as modern supply chains have evolved and the technology improved and so on, we have really been able to get our competitive advantage going to be able to obviously participate quite extensively and being one of the lead producers in some of the agricultural products. As we go on to sustainability, I think sustainability many years ago wasn't necessarily something that many businesses used to very focus on. It wasn't necessarily a topic of discussion at the time, because who would have thought that their sustainability would have been questioned, or that their business one day would be crippled by risks that they didn't see coming. So these days, we also have quite a lot more discussions and emphasis on consumer-friendly products and products that meet certain standards, with consumer trends changing to become more vegan-friendly and so on. There's a lot of other ecological aspects also going on to do with environmental concerns and addressing those adequately, one of which I've seen in South Africa, in my little area of the world. We've definitely moved away. Okay, I shop at Woolworths, so I can't necessarily say all of the places in my area, but I know they've done away with the sale of plastic bags and so on, and they've moved over to material bags, which obviously allows you to reuse them multiple times going forward. I think definitely one thing that I've also been able to actively, experience is the customer experience, especially when it comes to the livestock side of supply chains. In my area of the world, when I was 5-6 years ago, I'm ashamed to say that it was 18, almost 20 years ago, there was very limited interaction and, much discussion between my dad, for example, who's a farmer, and the marketing agents. And now there's a lot more focus from their side as well with, engaging consumers and being able to build consumer loyalty by obviously addressing a lot of the customer care services and so on, and really making sure that the farmers know that the agents are looking after their desires to make sure that they get the maximum prices and so on. And then just to briefly go through, because I don't want to take too much more time, but when we look at stuff like data analytics and outsourcing, we can see that previously not a lot of outsourcing was made use of, and not a lot of data was used to make decisions. It was more based off of a so-called gut feel, if I can call it that. Whereas now, as we've moved to more traditional systems and more technologically advanced systems, we have a lot more data at our disposal, and we can actually track, and that helps us as participants in supply chains to really track where the demand is going and what are our prices like and so on. And one big thing that I must say that I've noticed, which is obviously one thing that I'm currently focusing on in my dissertation, is the risk management approaches of agribusinesses. But definitely one thing that I've realized from literature is how the process has changed, where in the past, risk management strategies were based off of singular, identifying the problem, addressing the problem, but it was on a one-to-one basis. So it was always just see one problem, solve one problem. However, more modern supply chains have got strategic management practices in place to obviously prevent and address risks proactively. And then just to briefly touch on infrastructure and so on, one thing that I've also seen in South Africa is a few years ago, we didn't necessarily have a lot of infrastructure, or at least a lot of adequate infrastructure. And considering now the amount of factories that have been built and the amount of jobs that have currently been increased, especially in my little hometown of Staraheim in the Eastern Cape, it's as directly as a result of the significantly improved infrastructure. And then, yeah, I think these are the last few ones. Obviously, when we look at the efficiency of old supply chains, they weren't necessarily as efficient. Obviously, carrying a lot of stock and marketing was sometimes a bit slower. And obviously, a lot of the trade previously was based off of word of mouth sales and so on. Whereas now, due to the use of obviously improved technology advancement and so on, we've been able to obviously make the supply chain more efficient and obviously offering a lot more to consumers by ensuring that obviously with things like websites and next day delivery and all of these marketing strategies, we've been able to also increase the traceability of parcels and so on, and obviously encourage consumers to purchase more, obviously due to the more efficient supply chain methods in place. And I think that's basically done. I don't know if anyone has any questions.
Perfect. I think let's appreciate Hanko for the presentation. Some appreciation, guys. You guys are not using these. Huh? So I think that is good, eh? So what have you picked from Hanko's presentation? Again, which perhaps did not feature in the other presentations? Anything?
I don't know. I don't know from the earlier submissions, but what I've picked from Hancock's submission personally was the sustainability bit of it that I didn't have in my submission. And it's really very important and key. Thank you.
So the sustainability bit of the supply chain. So which one is more focused on sustainability, the modern or the traditional?
The modern.
Of course, the modern, eh?
Yes, madam.
Yes, so he has also talked about risk management. For traditional, it is reactive approach. And for the modern, you must be proactive. Be able to understand the risks that might occur along the supply chain and get prepared for them, isn't it?
Yes, doctor.
Yes, so I think that is perfect. So from those presentations, you have, of course, gathered a lot of information, and of course, combined with what you also worked on, so you are able now to address that area pretty well. So now today I want us to move to our third topic. Let me just share the presentation. So maybe before we move to our next topic, which is about supply chain design and analysis, just a quick recap on what we learned last time for the sake of those who are not with us. So what did we learn last time? So last time we talked about value adding and value creation. So we were able to define these concepts, and we also introduced another concept, value capturing. So maybe if you could just share with us take-home message for last class.
Doctor, I think maybe I can, from what I remember from the previous class, obviously value capturing is obviously the selling price that the businesses end up being able to ask for the product that they sell. So obviously that would be the value that they capture. However, we can't just always focus on value capturing, because obviously we, as a value chain, our focus is obviously on adding value to the product, and so obviously continually adding value to the product to always satisfy consumer needs. However, but as a business, we also need to think about the balance between value creation, value capturing, and what the cost is of adding that additional unit of value, and whether or not it's a sustainable practice for the business. And yes, I think that for me was something that I kind of was my take-home message from not yesterday's lecture, but the previous one. Don't know if anyone would like to add to that.
Thank you very much, Uncle. What else did we learn last time? Of course, we mentioned that for you to be able to capture value, you need to at least create some value. And we can create value in different ways. So how can we create value? What are some of the ways of creating value?
One of them we said was innovation, where we come up with new products.
Yes, through innovation, you can come up with new products. What else? How else can we create value other than the innovation way? Any other way of creating value? Grading?
Doctor, I also think maybe the processing of products, obviously when we take raw materials from the primary level of production and you send it through the processing and making it into a format that would actually be appealing to consumers to and make it into a format that will obviously satisfy their needs quicker while eliminating a lot of effort that goes with it. So for example, a way of adding value would be washing and cutting up carrots so that when you go into the shop of your choice, you can just buy already washed and cut carrots and peeled carrots, that you don't have to do it when you get home.
Yeah, so you don't have to again do the peeling and everything, eh? So to make work easier for convenience, already the carrots have been peeled, the vegetables, have been, cut, and so on and so forth. So even, when you source for quality materials, don't you think you are creating value? Because the end product, of course, will be of high quality. You enhance your services, focus on customer, offering a good customer service, creating brand names that outstands among other products. And of course, when you also try to develop some unique customer experiences. So there are different ways in which we can create value. So what else did we learn? Other than that, what else? So did you read through the framework? Who can explain to us the framework that we discussed last time? Value creation, value capturing framework. Hey, you guys, are you there? Who can explain to us the value capturing and creation framework?
Prof, I have read through it, but I'm not 100% on that diagram, if I can be honest.
What about
So
the
I
others?
was-
Let's have others participate as well. Nkuli, Nkuli, are you there? Ndaba, Nkuli, please share with us what we learned. Nkuli? So your mic has a problem, What about the others? Okay, so maybe we'll have to find time to go through the articles which I sent. And I even advised you guys to go through the articles yesterday. So I think for today, let's move to the next.
Can I give it a trial? The framework.
Yes, yes.
Okay, my understanding was so there was the hell, nightmare, heaven, and dream. Okay, for the hell, it can be used to describe like a situation where a business is not creating or capturing like the value for its customers. And this can happen if the business is not meeting like the needs of its customers, or if it's not like if it's not pricing its products or services competitively. Then we had like the nightmare. Okay, in this segment, I can describe it as a situation where a business is creating value for its customers, but not capturing that value in the form of profit. Okay, I can explain it this as this can happen if the business costs are maybe too high, or if it is not marketing its products or services effectively. Then the other segment of heaven, I can describe it as a situation where a business is creating and capturing value for its customers, but this segment is in like a sustainable way. So this means that the business is like making a profit, but it is also providing value to its customers and the community. Okay, the other segment, the dream. Okay, this one I can say it's like a situation where a business is creating and still capturing the value for its customers, and in a way that is either innovative or disruptive. Okay, this means that where the business is not only meeting the needs of its customers, but it is also like changing the way the business is done in its like industry. So basically, that is what I got from the from the value creation, value capturing framework.
Thank you very much,
Okay.
Nancy. I think that was a good trial. Yes, Sam? You want to
I
add on
just,
to?
I just want to add on a little.
Mhm.
We talked of a monopolist starting from a dream, I think, territory,
Mhm.
whereby if he doesn't do enough to improve on the value, since he's a monopolist, usually doesn't, he has no competition, no competitors within the market, so he relaxes a lot, and then he's pushed to hell because of relaxing. So this is an undesirable territory whereby everything is at a low. You're no longer enjoying the benefits you used to enjoy under the dream. So if you work hard and improve, then you can shoot to nightmare. But nightmare, we have a lot of competition whereby we have new entrants that are competing with this monopolist. So he has to up his game until he reaches, then there he can be able to go back to heaven territory. That's it.
Thank you, thank you. And were you able to read about some of the strategies that they can pursue to move to the next segment, from dream to hell to nightmare to heaven? Of course, those are some of the things you should be thinking about, for them to move from hell to nightmare. Of course, they need to emphasize on value creation, isn't it? So how do they go about it? So you need to figure out some of the strategies. And the article which I shared has really expounded on the different strategies that can be adopted by firms to navigate through these segments. So I think that is okay. Now, for today, I want us to look at supply chain design and analysis. And this is just an example of a value chain, because under this, we will look at the value chain analysis. We will look at some of the value in actors, and of course, we will also look at the structure, the governance of these chains. So if you look at the diagrams, the two diagrams presented there, you find that a value chain is not just a linear chain of activities. And I remember there's somebody who described a traditional, supply chain to be linear. So what do we mean when we say that it is linear? Who can explain? If you got it right from the explanation, one of you explain it as he was presenting on the differences between traditional and the modern supply chain. So what do we understand by this terminology, linear? We normally have linear, non-linear. What do we mean?
Doctor, I'd say that it goes from one stage to the other. It's like straight. So once you go from finding raw materials, you have to go to the manufacturing. You can't go from raw materials and then go to distribution without manufacturing. So it's straight from one step to the other. That's
so it's so procedural, from one point to the next point,
Yes,
direct,
Yes, doctor.
So without going through, other chains, so you cannot bypass the other chains. You have to move, if it is from, acquisition of raw materials, you move to production, then you move to the other, activities. Unlike, of course, we don't expect a value chain to be linear. Sometimes it can be messier. Can you see the diagram below? So the first one, which is straightforward, we're moving from point A, which is an activity A, to activity B to activity see. But if you look at the second diagram, it is not as straight as the first one. It's a bit messier, and we can see the arrows, moving, from different directions to different directions. So why do you think that value chain is nonlinear? Why is it nonlinear? Why do you think it is nonlinear? Of course, it is complicated, and there are so many changes that takes place within the value chain. And you cannot predict some of these activities or even the changes that can, of course, influence some of the decisions that are made. And that is why you find that an ideal value chain is a bit complex. And of course, it depends on the commodities. It depends on the nature of these value chains, the types of value chains that we are talking about. There are those that are quite simple. But in the current modern world, we find that these value chains are nonlinear. And one does not necessarily have to move from one point to the next point to the other one in a focused way. You'll find that as you think about moving to point B, something else comes up that again needs your attention, or you need to again link up to other activities before you could move to the point B. And you find that even in terms of the flow of information, the flow of activities, the flow of fundings and resources also is different. So it doesn't have to be linear, because these resources could move from different directions. So we are talking about moving from a simple value chain to a more complex value chain. So when you talk about value chain analysis, you are trying to understand value chain in totality. You're trying to understand the factors, you're trying to understand the conditions under which the value chains operate. You're trying to understand the participants who are involved in the chain and how you can be able to achieve higher performance in the chain. You want to understand the governance structures within the chain. So there's a lot to understand or to figure out as you think about value chain analysis. So it can, of course, be simple. It can also be complex. So as you can see, we have a simple value chain, but then we also have, again, a complex value chain, and you can even have a value chain with different input markets, not necessarily one input market. Maybe you are engaged in a production of a product that requires different materials. And these materials, you source them from different suppliers. So you are dealing with different suppliers, actors at this point. And then you also need to deal with the different agents as you move them to the other nodes of the chain. So at the end of the day, you are dealing with so many agents, as is described on the screen. Can you see the screen? Hello?
Yes, Doctor. Yes, we can.
Yes, this side of the screen. So you see that there is a lot of involvement, different agents, and different markets, the input markets, and even the output markets. You're not necessarily selling to one particular retailer or customer. There are different targeted groups of customers that you are marketing your products to, and maybe through different agents. And it can even be more complex if you participate in the global market, because again, you might need other agents in between to facilitate the movement of these products. But then, of course, there are different ways of analyzing these value chain. And at the end of the day, we found that there are a number of activities that are involved. I can see this. I know this one is a bit, oh, sorry. I don't know, can you see this one? This diagram that is just above the chain?
I can't really read the, but I can see it above the linear chain, Doctor, but I can't really see the text.
You cannot see the text, eh? So how many of you have read about the Porter? Porter, Michael Porter, and the concept of value chain analysis, eh?
It has come up, Doctor, but I can't remember like very precisely now.
You can remember Michael Porter's framework on value chain analysis. I know those who've done agribusiness and even agricultural economics, you have encountered Porter's model. So of course, Porter developed a concept of value chain, and he identified different types of activities. We have got the primary activities, and we have got the support activities. And of course, towards the end, we have got the profit margin, because as you engage in these activities, the ultimate goal is to make profit as you satisfy the customer's needs. So these primary activities are the ones that are directly or directly contribute, to the value chain processes, unlike the support activities that indirectly, have an effect on the value chain. So we have got various primary activities. So maybe at your own time, I want you to go and read more on the Porter's concept of value chain. Read more on the Porter's concept of value chain. Are we together?
Yes, Doctor.
And you will learn about the different activities that we are talking about. We have here the primary activities, of course, the production, the output logistics, the marketing, and all that. But then we need also other support activities, because as an entrepreneur or entrepreneur, you must also interact with the other stakeholders within the chain. And of course, there are certain services which are very, very critical as you develop the product, as you move those products along the supply chain. We also have, the procurement activities. We need the banking, activities, the infrastructure, and so on and so forth, the human resource management. Because without the support activities, then you're not able to realize your ultimate goal. So at the end of the day, Porter, engages different actors within the chain, and he promotes the idea of collaboration with other stakeholders within the chain. So as you try to analyze and reevaluate the value chain, then you also need to reevaluate some of these activities. How efficient are you undertaking these activities? So stakeholders' involvement is very, very crucial and participatory in a value chain analysis. But then at the end of the day, you find that the end market, when you are trying to understand the value chain or conducting a value chain analysis, the end market is the starting point for analyzing a value chain. Why do you think that the end market is the starting point for value chain analysis? Hello? Hello? So why is the
Hello,
end
Doctor.
market very important?
I think that's where the value of the product is actually established, where you realize how much maybe a final consumer is willing to offer for a given product.
What else?
That's my thought.
What else? Why? Who else can tell us why you think that the end markets are very important?
Doctor, maybe my submission would be, in my opinion, I would say the end market is very important because it's what, besides what the producers do, at the end of everything, at the end of every actor, or at the end of every process that is conducted to have this commodity, to have this final product, the targeted person is the consumer. So the feedback of a consumer carries a lot of value to what the other people do before having the final product. So it's what dictates the quality, the branding, the price, everything. Actually, the consumer or the feedback from the market it's the, can I say, it's the driver to what should be provided. That's why it is very important.
So the feedback is very important because it will inform the other activities undertaken along the value chain. Because remember, we say that you must begin by understanding the consumer needs. So you need to identify the market potential by understanding the customer needs and the specific market opportunities. What are the opportunities that are available? How can you orient your products or services to fit into the market? So that is why it is important that you begin by understanding the market, and that will inform the kind of raw materials, to purchase, the production systems to undertake, the quality of the products, to end up with, and different, marketing activities, and so on and so forth. So that is very, very important at the end of the day. So these tasks must be market, oriented as you try to figure out the value chain activities, to analyze the value chain and examine and evaluate the entire, value chain. Then think about the market. Sorry, I don't know why my laptop is misbehaving. So, and how does it work? So, again, on that picture, we can see different kinds of producers. We have got the small and mid-size producers. the farmers producing different commodities. We have got the fishermen, we have got the different, dairy farmers. We have got those who are already into, value addition. They're also, baking cakes. And of course, all these can move into the regional food supply chain, as well as other chains. So at the end of the day, you find that the targeted market will be different. And even the different nodes that they go through will also be different. But at the end of the day, they will, of course, get to a consumer. It could be an institution, a school, a hospital, a cafeteria, individual, consumer, a grocery, and so on and so forth. So they need to figure out the market that they are targeting, because again, that will inform the chains to be followed, that the products will pass through. So without a clear understanding of the markets, then it is not possible to identify the right channels or the right nodes of the chain. Are we together on that?
Yes, doctor.
Are we together? So you find that along these, there are different support activities that will be provided. There are different, of course, primary activities that will be undertaken to ensure efficiency and effectiveness as these products move along the chains to the different target markets. So as you try to understand a value chain, you're not just analyzing a particular segment or node of the chain, but you want to understand how is inputs acquisition done? Where do these people get their inputs? Who are the suppliers? What about production? What happens within the production node? What are some of the products of concern? What are some of the activities? Are there policies in place that could influence production? Governmental policies? What about the governance structures? Who has more power within these segments? So it is quite a complex thing that you cannot just figure out a particular segment, but you need to think through the chain in totality. It's like understanding a food system, because you find that in a system, it is a set of things that work together as parts, And at the end of the day, you find that there is an interconnecting network. All these activities, actors are interconnected. So they need one another. So there's interactions along the chain, right? From the input supply till the end as the food gets to the fork. So you must understand the dynamics within the different stages of the chains. So this is just an example of who primary actors are. We also have the supporting actors and the institutional actors. So can you identify the primary actors? Of course, when you talk about value chain actors, so these are people who are involved in value chain activities. They're the people who are involved in value chain activities. So for instance, we have primary actors. Who are the primary actors? For instance, from this diagram, can you identify some of the primary actors?
Doctor, it's the primary producer that I'm seeing, small scale processors, local markets, niche markets. That's what I can see. Oh, large scale processors as well.
Good. So we have got the primary producers, we have got the small scale processors. What about the traders? The traders, where do they belong? Are they primary actors?
Doctor, would they not fall under supporting actors since they don't necessarily have a stake or in like the primary activities? They play more a role after the primary activities have been produced.
What is your take? Somebody with a different opinion? So I've mentioned that these actors, the primary actors, are directly involved in value chain activities. Remember, they are directly involved. Are traders directly involved? Of course they are. Wholesalers, retailers, those are primary actors. They are directly involved in the value chain activities as these products move along the chain. But then what about supporting actors? We have got the business and extension services. Are we together?
Yes, we are. Can't financial services be part of supporting actors?
Pardon?
I was asking, can't financial services be part of supporting actors?
Yes, they are. I'm talking about the business and the extension services, whereby we have, of course, the facilitation of linkages, product diversification, upgrading standards. We have got those, like the Bureau of Standards that ensures the standardization of these products and all that, the market information, financial services, input suppliers, and so on and so forth. So these ones, they support, of course, the other extension services. They support these primary actors. Then besides that, we also have the institutional actors. At the end of the day, we need institutions. We have the institutional customers. We have other institutions that can also help with other activities within the chain to ensure safety of the products as they move along the chain and so on and so forth. And we also have the enabling environment. At the end of the day, these people cannot be left on their own to operate without some regulatory frameworks. So, of course, the government plays a critical role, developing policies that can guide the activities, regulatory frameworks, the trade standards, and so on and so forth. So all these must work together to ensure that at the end of the day, as these products move along the chain, then there are checks and balances. And I think if you consider the traditional, chains, they were not as complex as the modern chains, in the sense that the issues of quality and safety were not of concern. But the modern value chain, of course, because of technological advancement, because of some of these unobserved behavior, people thirsty for more profits and all that, there is a lot that takes place within the value chain that needs to be clearly monitored. Are we together? So as we talk about the supply chain analysis, remember you are also trying to understand who are the actors within the supply chain, those that are directly involved in these activities. What are some of the supporting activities? Who are the actors? What about the institutional actors as well as the enabling environment? So they all need to coordinate and work together to ensure that at the end of the day, there's a smooth flow of products and services along the chain. Are we together on that?
Yes, Doctor.
Any question up to that point? Any question? So there are different components of this value chain analysis and the supply chain, networks as well as the other analysis. But then looking at it on that diagram, we find that within the value chain, you also need to understand the networks that exist. So that is just an example of a supply chain networks. Other than the governance structures, the different value creation strategies and value addition strategies, we also need to understand the networks. So as you can see, we have got the vertical networks and the horizontal networks. So who can tell us the difference between the vertical networks and the horizontal networks?
So Doctor, what I understand from vertical is, let's say, for example, you are a farmer. A vertical integration would basically be you buying the next processing step or the next step in the value chain after you. So for example, if a farmer then buys, for example, if he produces meat, if they then buy an abattoir, because from there they're shortening the supply chain and they can take over 2 steps, let's say, of the 5-step process, and so on. So the further down the value chain of that specific value chain they go, that's vertical integration. Whereas horizontal integration is when, for example, a farmer buys a neighboring farm. It's when you basically purchase it's basically when you purchase or merge with a business that is on your same level of production. So it would be if a processor, if abattoirs merge, or if you buy a business that also does processing, kind of like I think that's my understanding of it.
Thank you, Hanko. A different explanation concerning the vertical network and the horizontal network. Anybody with a different opinion? An additional information? So if you look at the vertical, when you're moving vertically, we are moving from one level to the other level. So this one reflects the flow of the products and services from, for instance, the producer to the end consumer. So you find that the relationship is vertically along the chain. The flow of products and services moves along the chain. And if you look at the horizontal, it reflects a relationship between the actors within the same chain link. So for the vertical, the relationship is between actors at the different levels of the link. or at different stages of the chain. So for instance, you find that a farmer has a relationship with the input provider, as well as the processors, or maybe the traders have got some relationship with the processors. But for this other one, the horizontal, you find that the relationship is between the actors within the same level. Are we together? For instance, an input provider can have a relationship with another input provider within the same chain link. Is it possible?
Yes, it's possible. No, doctor, I don't understand like the kind of relationship. Like, because
Let me
if we
give
are
you an
all
example.
input providers, yes.
Let me give you an example of contract farming. Where does contract farming fall? Contract farming, eh?
Could it be at farm production, I think?
Contract? Is it
Contract
a
farming.
vertical or horizontal?
It's on the
In horizontal.
Vertical.
What about, a cooperative or group, collaborations? Where does it fall? Assuming that certain actors decide to form a group or a cooperative, society, foster some of their agendas, where will it fall?
horizontal.
Horizontal.
It is a horizontal. So when you talk about a contract farming, let me give you an example of whereby supermarkets have entered into some contractual arrangement with farmers. Why? They want to get fresh, foodstuff from the farm. They want to monitor how these products are produced, whether they are using the right chemicals, they are applying the right, chemicals, whether they are managing these produce accordingly. And they also want to limit on, some of the costs incurred, like they're trying to scout for quality products and also just to be assured of the products at any given time. So when they enter into a contractual arrangement with a particular farmer, of course, they have some specifications which they've communicated to the farmer in terms of the quality, in terms of the quantity, and so on and so forth. So the farmer is also assured of a ready market,
Yes.
Is it,
Yes,
So
doctor.
this farmer is also assured of a ready market, timely payment, among other things. So they have vertically integrated. So the relationship is vertical because the farmer belongs to a different chain link, and the retailer or the supermarket belong to a different chain link. But if we have farmers who decide to form a group or a society so that they can have a bargaining power when they are marketing their products, they are able to market, in volumes. They're able to attract good prices. They're able to pool their resources, like the transportation. Let me give you an example of dairy farmers. Assuming we have small dairy farmers who produce maybe a maximum of 10 liters per day. So as an individual, can you market your product? Will that be enough? Because there are certain suppliers, there are certain buyers who need volumes of milk. So they can decide to pool their produce and then they market in bulk. So that is a good example of vertical integration because it is between a farmer and a farmer. Who can give us a different example? Any other example? Hello?
Sorry, Doctor, my internet just cut out. Another example of?
Let's hear from the other guys, eh?
Okay.
The others are just quiet, eh? Remember, we expect all of us to participate, not just a few individuals.
Doctor, according to what you explained, there is I don't know that it's kind of similar to what you said. Like, for example, in Uganda here, we have farmers that form some sort of cooperatives. So they produce maybe a certain commodity, and then they have collection centers. So from the collection centers, that's where they do everything, like the grading, determining the price of the commodity, and then collectively they also look for market for their produce. Yes, it's kind of similar to what you said about the milk production. So that's what some farmers are incorporating here in Uganda.
So what about at the input level? Are you likely to experience some horizontal relationship between the input providers? How can it work?
I think that also comes to a scenario where, for example, there is high demand for a certain input, and one farmer, or I mean one input provider cannot meet the demand or the quantities that are being demanded for. So they can collaborate with other input dealers, and then like they have the deal done.
That is true. So I at your own time, read more on these vertical relationships and horizontal relationships. And they've been largely applied in a number of research work. So if you get articles on vertical integration and horizontal integration, you'll be able to learn more on how they have been applied. Now let's look at value chain mapping. So again, other than value chain analysis, because when you talk about our value chain analysis, we also think about, of course, the market analysis, value chain mapping, analysis of the networks that we have just seen, as well as the economic, analysis. You want to understand whether the value chain is profitable or not profitable, and the governance structures. So what does it mean when you talk about value chain mapping? What is a map? Maybe let's begin from there. What is a map? What is a map? Have you ever drawn a map?
A map is like an overview of an area so that you can visualize the area around you, and it allows you then to decide where you want to go.
You want to visualize an area? Is it just an area? Pokane, what is a map?
A map sort of gives us a direction, a clear direction of where we want to go or where we are.
So where we want to go,
Yes.
So when you are developing a map, of course, you are thinking about the past, You're thinking about the past, but then you want to analyze the future. Isn't it? So I know at some point when you'll be working on your proposals, you'll try to draw a map of a particular, area, research area, and then you explain to people that this is where I intend to gather, data from, and the boundaries, of course, you show the different boundaries, if there are counties, the sub-counties of your focus, and you show a little bit, of some information about the area. So when you talk about mapping of a value chain, you're also trying to create a visual presentation of connection between the activities, and not just the activities, the market players, and other activities or institutional support that is necessary. So it is important that you try to visualize that how is an ideal value chain look like? How does it look like? What is involved? And then you try and sketch it. You figure about it, visualize it, and then you try to have some presentation. But then you're trying to connect all these people that you've talked about, the different actors, the different activities, the support activities, the primary activities, the environment, I mean the space, of course, that is involved, and the institutional frameworks that are involved. So at the end of the day, you have a broader view of a value chain. Is that clear? So it allows you to understand how the products and services move through the different stages of the chain, and who are the key market players. So you are able to identify and categorize the major market players in the chain. But then you're also able to identify or illustrate who are the support organizations that are available. And what levels of the chain do they concentrate on? And what are some of the services that they offer? And you're also able to show the different market channels. How will you market that product? Will you market it directly to the consumers? Does it have to pass through the retailers, the wholesalers, or some processors for further value addition? So again, understanding the market channels is very important, through which these products and services reach the end consumer. And of course, you are able to identify even who your competitors are. So understanding the competition environment is very, very important. Who are your competitors, and what are some of the weak links within the value chain? And what about areas where opportunities lie that can be explored? So it is very important at the end of the day, or the output, of course, of this mapping process is a diagram. And I normally see most students, especially those who envisage to undertake a study on value chain or value mapping. Normally, their first objective is to conduct a value chain, mapping, because they want to understand if it is the dairy, sector. They want to understand who is involved in this dairy sector. What are some of the activities? Who are the key players within this chain? So that is normally an objective, mapping of a value chain. And then at the end of the day, they have some diagrams to show people that this is how the dairy products flow from the farmers, this to this stage, and some of the people who are involved And it is a very nice diagram that, of course, can be explained. And you find that they differ based on the products. They differ based on a number of things. So at the end of the day, the analysis of these or the mapping is so detailed and requires a lot. And mapping can be done in a different ways. You can decide to undertake stakeholder, engagement. You involve stakeholders. And normally it is important that as you do a value chain mapping, you involve various stakeholders. Otherwise, you cannot do a value chain mapping by just gathering information, collecting data maybe from one actor along the chain, maybe from farmers or retailers. You may have primary data, but you need to enrich it with some, qualitative data like key informant interviews, group discussions, such that at the end of the day, there is data consultation of various actors in the development of these maps. Is that clear?
Yes, doctor.
Have you understood what value chain mapping is? Hello?
Yes, doctor.
Yes, doctor.
Yes, doctor.
I'm sure some of you might be interested in maybe undertaking some value chain mapping in your studies.
Not necessarily value chain mapping, but risk mapping.
Pardon?
For my thesis, I won't necessarily be doing this value chain mapping, doctor, but I will be doing risk mapping.
You'll be doing risk mapping, eh?
Yes.
So
yes.
the approach is more or less the same. So when you'll be doing risk mapping, maybe you can tell us now what will be your focus on.
So my focus is on the fragility of agribusinesses and to analyze the interconnected risks within agribusinesses, and obviously try and find a way to understand why businesses don't necessarily prepare for a rainy day. So the plan is to send out a questionnaire to obviously doing primary data gathering of a select sample size of agribusinesses, and obviously get their risks and get them to obviously tell me which risks are interconnected to kind of analyze the domino effect of one risk to the other. After that, I will then sit and compile a risk, kind of like a risk map based off of all of them to try and see where are the major areas in which these risks are, specifically whether it's in the environmental section, legal, finance, and so on. And then from there, I will be approaching industry experts to get their feedback and to actually see if, and have like a workshop kind of day where we can try and delve into some of these issues, why they occur. Is it because businesses are ill prepared? Is it because of a trade-off between efficiency and a preparation for a rainy day? And then from there, see if we can find a way to mitigate this risk, or at least put procedures in place for businesses that it at least it slows down the transmission from one risk to the next. So I think that's basically it.
Yeah, so you've mentioned that you intend to collect primary data.
Yes,
so I
doctor.
think you should also consider, a stakeholder engagement.
All right, doctor.
Yes, maybe you get some key informants, of course, representing the different, people within, the risk management and so on and so forth.
Yes, doctor.
Because when you're doing mapping, you need an input or views from different stakeholders, not just one person or two people, but different stakeholders.
Yes, doctor. So the plan is obviously, as I've now started making a list of agribusinesses, I've been considering, all of the participants within specific value chains and making sure that all of the processes are as equally represented as far and as much as possible. Yeah.
That is perfect, eh?
Thank you so
So
much.
I think mapping is very, very important because you are able to understand so many things, the dynamics within the value chain. Eh? You're also able to understand some of the weak links or weak points within the value chain. And how do you address them? What are some of the opportunities that lie, within these value chains? So sometimes you find that somebody comes from a different place and, explores an opportunity within a value chain and you wonder, where have I been? And runs with it and makes money from that business. And yet you are seated there. So if you try to analyze the chain through mapping, then you are able to understand nitty-gritty things about the value chain. So you are able to understand the flow of these products, the major market players, they support firms or organizations, the different channels, and so on and so forth. So that is very, very important. Again, you should start thinking about different, value chains, and figure out how the map would look like. A dairy, value chain, vegetable value chain, fruits value chain. Of course, you'll find that there's certain activities that will differ. Other actors, of course, that will be different. Market players, more or less the same or could vary slightly, and as well as other activities. So any question up to that point? Because I think
no, Doctor.
We have about 3 minutes and we are not able to cover the remaining content on creating and upgrading value chains. Any question?
No, Doctor.
Yeah, and as you think about the mapping also, as you do the mapping, you should also think about the flow of resources, the flow of information. How does the information flow along the value chain? You also need to think about the value chain governance, the power dynamics, of course, exerted by different kinds of actors within the chain. So you find that at some point, maybe for a particular value chain, the input providers are very influential and they exert, a lot of power within the chain compared even to the, producers or the processors. When does it happen? And how does it happen? Again, these governance mechanisms are very, very important, and you should also think about them as you do the mapping. As you collect data, you also want to understand some of the governance, structures within the value chain. So I think we will begin from this point on creating and upgrading value chains, because we know that upgrading value chain is important, and it's also a way of value creation as well as increasing efficiency within the value chains. So I think this one, we can push it to our next class. So do you have any question?
Yes, Doctor, just about the group assignment that you uploaded onto ClickUp for us. I just wanted to find out how long should the presentation be? Or is it just similar to kind of how we did it today? Just try and do it and then just share some of the findings.
Of course, that one will be evaluated.
Yes, Doctor.
Yes, that one will be evaluated. Unlike, today's presentation, right? This was kind of informal,
Yes, Doctor.
Yes, but for that one, we will, I will evaluate it, and therefore you need to try and do your best,
All right, thanks, Doctor.
Yes. So do we call it a day?
Unless you have like a question about next week Tuesday, about the test, we are writing at class time at 8.
Oh, according to the timetable,
Okay, Doctor. And then up
Is
until
it that, are we supposed to have the test next week?
Doctor, I think in one of the slides you shared with us not too long ago, I think it said that it was on the 29th of August, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay. Yes, but then now that we did not meet, yesterday, I think we need, remember I mentioned that is just a tentative
Yes.
schedule, but that can always be adjusted.
All right, Doctor, if you don't mind, can we just ask that you maybe just send an announcement with the new date for that semester test? Because I'm not sure about everyone else, but I know I've got commitments in the evening. So if it will be in the evening time, I just need to make arrangements because I do sing for the University of Pretoria Camerata. So I just need to make arrangements with the choir to be excused to be able to make the test time.
Okay.
Thanks so much,
So
Doctor.
we can push it to, no. 5th,
The 5th of September.
Of September, yes.
All right, thanks, Doctor.
Yes, I think that is okay. Is that perfect with everyone? Is it okay with you guys?
It's fine, Doctor. It's okay.
Okay.
Doctor, from my side, it's good. Thank you very much, Doctor.
Okay, thanks. So let's meet next week, And thank you for tuning in. Please, let's encourage the others, I know load shedding is an issue, but then remember the attendance, There is a threshold. And please let us avoid, being bad from sitting for the main exams because of, attendance. You do not meet the threshold. So please just let those guys know that attendance is very important. It's normally being recorded. And if you don't attain a certain percentage, then you may not be allowed to sit for the exam. So I hope the message is clear.
Yes, Doctor.
Yes, Doctor.
Doctor, I normally have international trade on Tuesday from 3 to 5, so it clashes with the value chain. And Paul said there's nothing that he can do because I'm the only one.
Tuesday from 3, but Tuesday we normally have our class from 8 in the morning.
No, sorry, Wednesday. Sorry, I meant to say Wednesday, from 3 to 5.
So how do we go about that?
Like today, the class started at 3 and ended at 5. I only attended this one from 5 until now at 6.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I'll try to alternate. Some days I will attend, some days I'll attend.
How come you didn't raise it at the beginning of the semester?
I think I did mention that LK
you didn't raise it to the ARC guys, because they're the ones who work on the timetable.
Yes, I mentioned it to them. First things first, during the first week. And Paul even stated in the email that there's nothing that he can do because I'm the only one who's doing both those modules. And if there's any clashes, it's up to me on how I manage my time.
Okay. So you're the only one, eh? The others are okay with the timing, eh?
Yes.
Then we'll see what to do. Maybe you'll be juggling in between.
Yes, definitely.
You'll be alternating, eh?
Yes, definitely. Hopefully it won't be a problem in terms of the number of times I attend lectures, but it's only on Wednesday which I have a clash.
Okay. So I think that's okay then. Let's meet next week, eh? But remember to work on those assignments. I'll continue posting articles for reading, and also you can also do your own readings, eh? There are lots of articles to be read, eh? Concerning the concepts which we have learned. So you don't necessarily have to rely on what I've posted, but during your own study time, eh, you can also explore the information available. So thank you very much, guys. Enjoy the rest of the week. Eh?
Thank you, Dr. Same to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. You too.
Doctor,
Okay,
for
bye.
charity's sake, just the last one, because we no longer have the test on Tuesday, does it mean that the presentations will be on Tuesday?
Yes, yes.
Okay, and then we'll be submitting on ClickUp. Do we need to submit anything on ClickUp?
Yes, you'll submit them on ClickUp, eh?
Okay, thank you very much, Doc.
Oh, okay.
But doctor, there are some of us who don't access ClickUp.
So what about the ARC platform?
Okay.
I think you can submit through the ARC platform. Eh?
Okay then.
Okay, bye.